And then it gives you greater control. Again, neuroplasticity. The more times you do something, the greater the highway strengthens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MentorZ podcast. I'm your host, Ava Wettrick. Here on this show, we talk to luminaries from around the world to discuss their journey towards success and what wisdom they have to offer the younger generation. Each episode, we have on a new guest, a new story, and a new path towards personal success. I hope you're ready, and I hope you enjoy. Today, we have on Louisa Nicola. Louisa, also known as the Diamond Boss, is a neuroscientist and brain strategist who coaches leading CEOs and athletes. She is the director and head neuroscientist at Neuro Athletics. As a professional triathlete, she was in a car accident and was told she would never be able to run again. And as a trained mathematician, she looked deep into the field of neurofeedback and flow state. Her understanding of algorithms behind human performance allowed her to make a full recovery. She utilizes these tactics in her athlete mental performance agency, Neuro Athletics. And Neuro Athletics is a full-service neuroscience and medical-grade diagnostic testing company that delivers data-driven results with an emphasis on the nervous system in conjunction with the physical body to optimize human performance. This has incredible benefits like maintaining focus, increasing productivity, and decreasing anxiety, and there are so many other brain upgrades. She also runs a top 100 podcast, The Neuro Experience. The podcast features New York's celebrity fitness trainers, world-renowned medical doctors, and world champion athletes who all share their own neuro experiences. Louisa was a fantastic guest to have on, but we did have a little bit of audio troubles. Her audio, crystal clear, fantastic. My audio is a little bit spotty at times. Most of the time it's good, but you'll hear once or twice it doesn't sound the way it should, but that's okay. I don't do a lot of the talking. But regardless, Louisa was intelligent and passionate and very engaging with the conversation, and I learned so much from it. So without further ado, Louisa Nicola. Louisa, thank you so much for being on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was such an honor, meeting you and having me introduce you to her, having her introduce you to me was absolutely amazing, and one question I always ask all of my guests is, what's your origin story? Who were you then, and how did you get to where you are today?
Oh gosh, how much time do you have?
Oh, you can go back as far as the womb. It doesn't matter.
Seriously, look, I've got a very, very crazy story. So, born and raised in Australia. I was a professional triathlete. I was racing for Australia. I made it to the World Championship titles in Beijing, in London, and in Auckland. And that's where I started to understand the link to high performance, neuroscience. I was always looking for that edge. I was at university at the time studying my undergraduate degree. I was doing sports science, so, sport and exercise science. And so I had an understanding of the body from a scientific perspective. So I started to become obsessed back in, I would say, 2010, 2011 with the brain. I started to research it, read more about it. I started to do brain scans on myself to try and better myself as an athlete. So that's where my love for the brain really started. And I'm a very competitive person, so I was really researching it, doing everything I could. And then I ended up going back to university and doing a master's degree in neuroscience. And ever since I've been working, as a neuroscientist. I head up the brain health program at Hudson Medical in Tribeca in New York City, and I just love everything to do with the brain.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I mean, I'm a complete novice when it comes to neuroscience. I've only read a couple books, and thankfully, a mentor of mine, Stephen Kotler, has been nicely guiding me through what books to read and how to learn more about neuroscience. Um, but something I've really learned from Phantoms in the Brain and doing research on you is that the brain is just a huge map, essentially, very complex, very big map. And essentially, when you want to change things, you're rewiring it. But what are you rewiring, and what pathways are you connecting, and are you essentially eliminating any current paths in your mind?
Look, it's an interesting subject to talk about. So what you're defining there is neuroplasticity. Um, there's this saying amongst neuroscientists, when neurons wire together, they fire together, meaning we've got over 10 billion neurons. A neuron is a nerve cell in the brain, and we've got over 10 billion of them, and they're working at any given time. Whatever we're doing, um, it's always working. And now, what we talk about with neuroplasticity is if you do a specific movement, you think a specific thought, you do something specific, in order to achieve that output, your your brain waves and also your neurons need to be firing in the same direction. Okay. So if you imagine your brain as this interconnected highway, okay, there's just all these little highways going everywhere and you can drive down them. Now, what happens if you drive down one highway, okay, your brain, it's like a highway in your brain amongst your nerve cells. You will understand how to go down that highway again. Okay, you'll see some things along the road, you'll see the trees, you'll kind of remember them. If you drive down that highway about 150 times or 10,000 times, you're going to know it so well that it becomes natural to you. You don't have to think about it, you're just in sync. That is what we talk about when we talk about neuroplasticity and building new highways and building new networks. It's not something that's easy to achieve. However, that's where we get that whole saying of, the 10,000 hour rule. You do something for 10,000 hours, you perfect it. You're able to do it without even thinking.
I find that absolutely fascinating. And that always reminds me of the flow state. So I know that you have been a triathlete. I know that you really know and understand the flow state and what you get into. I've been an athlete for many years myself, and like doing swimming and playing rugby, I have found myself in those states of flow state. But honestly, it feels a lot like a muscle memory connection. But how do you explain flow state and how do you explain the alpha waves? Because is the alpha wave essentially the subconscious, or when I daydream, is that the alpha wave as well?
It's such an interesting topic because we know that we've got brainwaves. Okay, now I love this term brainwaves. I love this term because I do a lot of brain scanning in my lab. I do a lot of brain scanning using Evoke Neuroscience, where we actually get a complete map of the brain. We're able to actually understand what areas of the brain are working, what areas aren't. It's a functional test that actually looks into the signaling of these brain waves. Now, we've gotten a lot of recognition in the way of alpha brainwaves. Why? Well, because everybody's looking for that edge, okay? Everyone's looking for that flow state. Now, let's take, for example, Michael Jordan. I don't know what year it was, but it was when he was down by, I don't know, X amount of points, and he went off the court. He came back on, and for some reason he ended up scoring like 16 points, before the end of the match, and he couldn't explain it in an interview afterwards. He couldn't explain it. He shrugged his shoulders and he said to the media, I don't know, I was just in the zone. Now, what we found is that when people are in the zone, they're emitting a number of different alpha brain waves. Okay. And that's where we get that. They're called neural oscillations, but that's where we get that peak performance flow states where things are coming so naturally. It's like a euphoric moment. It only lasts a very short amount of time. It doesn't last, hours upon hours, and it's very hard to get into. So this alpha brainwave state that we talk about, this alpha brainwave state, which is the flow state, which we're all trying to get in, it's where we do effortless work. We should all want that. It's very hard to get into. It's a trained habit. You can't just hope for the best. You have to train for it, and we do that via things like meditation. It comes down to how well you've slept, how much you're eating, how well is your brain functioning, how much caffeine have you had. So it's not an easy thing to achieve and understand. However, it is a very desirable state.
Absolutely. Just being in those moments, both of us, when experiencing flow state, it is euphoric and you always want to chase it. And I think some ways I think that it can chase it is through nootropics. I absolutely loved your article, your company's article on nootropics and what it can do for you, what benefits it can have. But and how you can stack nootropics, which I didn't even know that you could do. But one concern that I did have is
Yeah.
that how do you buy nootropics safely online? What should you be looking for? What shouldn't you be looking for? And what specific nootropics do you love the most, and what do they benefit you for?
Really good question. So first and foremost, let's just talk about what nootropics are. Okay, nootropics are smart drugs. Okay, they're natural synthetic substances. You can be taking them for mental performance or just overall brain optimization and brain health. Now, I think they've gained a lot of popularity in such a highly competitive society because everybody, again, I'll reiterate, everybody's looking for that edge. Now, the thing with supplementation, not just nootropics, okay, the thing with supplementation is you don't know where it's coming from. You don't know where it's sourced. You don't know if it's locally sourced. You don't know what you're actually putting into your body. And I've done so much research to identify what brands are doing well. Okay. And I'm not even affiliated with any brands, but I take them myself, so it's important to me to understand that. Now, why would somebody take nootropics? Well, first and foremost, if you've got a neurotransmitter deficiency, for example, if you're lacking serotonin or you've got, you want to get some more GABA, I think it plays well to have these certain nootropics. If you're in the lines of, you're mentally exhausted. I know a lot of people. I've got a lot of clients on Wall Street, a lot of hedge fund and portfolio managers who just are exhausted. Okay, and we do a brain scan, we find out what they're eating, we do a cortisol test on them, and then we kind of put a nootropics plan for them. Um, I've got some favorites of my own, some favorite nootropics that I take. The one thing I will put out there, I don't believe it's a necessity. I really don't think supplementation, I don't think anybody should be going out and doing any form of supplementation unless they've had a blood test, a DNA test, a test to understand if they are deficient in any of these areas.
Yeah, no, and I love that you say that because you're not saying, "Oh, take these things willy-nilly and just try everything." And I know that you have yourself experimented, but you've done it under proper conditions and you know your body, you know yourself, and you know your blood work. And I think that's the most important thing because everybody is unique. Every brain is unique, every microbiome is unique, and you definitely were talking about nutrition, and I know how important nutrition is for you, and I believe you're on a keto diet. I don't want to call it a diet though, 'cause I know it's a lifestyle. Just diving into nutrition as a whole, I really learned that it's all about the microbiome and keeping the microbiome healthy. And even though we're all individuals, we're universally human beings. So, what are some universal ways that we can all keep our microbiomes healthy to feed our brains?
So I always start with, people come to me with the most craziest questions like, what can I be doing to, increase my clarity, or I get brain fog, and what can I be taking? And I always say, let's start with the things that God gave to us. Okay, let's start with, are you sleeping well? Are you sleeping correctly? Are you drinking enough water? What are you eating? Are you forming any type of neural inflammation? We know from certain things that we do, certain activities, staring at a screen before we sleep, all that blue light can actually cause neural inflammation. We know that sugar can create neural inflammation, mess up our gut microbiome. I believe that sugar is the most detrimental drug on the earth. And I think it's even worse than alcohol. So I think that if you're doing this, if you're doing everything, okay, to take care of your gut microbiome, and we know that there's a clear relationship between the gut and the brain. There's actually more neurotransmitters of serotonin within the gut than the brain. So a lot of the times when people are feeling down and sad and depressed and they think it's because of their brain, it's actually like, well, what are you eating and how long have you been eating it, and is it accumulating in your gut to actually block, the feelings of happiness and alertness. So I think first and foremost, if you're trying to fix up your gut microbiome, there's some awesome at-home tests. I think they're only like $99 or $120. It's Naveen Jain. He owns a company. I think it's Viome, where you get an at-home testing kit. They test your microbiome. They test what you should be eating. And then they put through a diet for you and they tell you, according to your gut microbiome, this is what you should be eating. This is what you should avoid. This is how many, I think they even go down to macro levels, how much fat you should be having on a daily basis. So I think if you're looking at this stuff, instead of going out and buying all the pre and probiotics, get tested.
Louisa is someone heavily involved and knowledgeable about her own diet. Her personalized diet is very interesting, and there are products available, like she mentioned, that can help you determine what is scientifically right for you. I also enjoyed the multiple dives she took into about neuroplasticity. If you'd like more information about how those concepts, like meditation, flow state, and emotional control connect, check out the free resource article titled Taking Control of Your Brain, down in the bio below. Tomorrow we'll be discussing more about motivation, focus, our environments, and brain training.